What is up, martial arts fanatics? Welcome back. As always, I am Coach Greg, and today we're getting into the system breakdown of Saenchai. For those of you who are new, what we do here is we don't just talk about the techniques used by Saenchai, but what we really try to do is get to the underlying system that has allowed him to be so successful through a very lengthy career. And look, I don't need to give a long introduction. If you're watching this video, you know who he is, right? I don't need to explain a whole lot of background on him. One of the most successful Muay Thai fighters of all time, and also one of the most exciting fighters of all time to watch. Constantly putting on a lot of fun in the ring, known for some of his antics, including the cartwheel kick, kissing people on the cheek, his playfulness. But beneath that is a system that is highly developed, that has allowed him to be very successful, often against much larger, faster, taller opponents. And he's had success because he understands how to set up his game very well, and using things like a lot of foot sweeps to have a high takedown success rate, how to use his attacks to draw out the attacks that he wants back and counter off of them successfully. And we're gonna get into all this stuff today. So that being said, stay tuned, let's get right to it. Okay, I wanna start off by talking a little bit about his defense and counters, because in my opinion, what Saenchai likes to do is emphasize a lot of defense and drawing out their attacks so that he can counter them with big counters. This is how he sets up a lot of his foot sweeps. A lot of his big techniques come off of the idea that he gives them something, they give him some sort of a counter, and then he exploits that. And this is what his game is predominantly based off of to start. Now, once they start to not respond, it gives him the freedom to be very offensive and have fun with his offensive combinations, because he no longer has a lot of fear of what they're gonna do. But initially what he likes to do is start backing off. Now, he's gonna use a lot of this, classic Muay Thai, like high hands here. And what he's gonna do mostly is just use this interfering hands. It works better with large boxing gloves, but even without it, it works fine. To be in here and just absorb, especially straight punches coming down the lane. And then if they start to throw hooks, ducking your head behind your shoulders, right? What this means is he doesn't have to worry about a lot of the boxing that's coming at him. What he's mostly worried about is things like big kicks. And that's good because he's gonna prepare for that by drawing out these big kicks and then taking advantage of it when they throw it. But like I said, basic boxing where they just stand on the outside, like throwing jabs and stuff, he's not super worried about that because he's pretty well covered, hiding out here, having fun. Now, what he'll do is a lot of times to initiate this, he'll start to back them up. He likes to walk guys back towards the ropes where he can really start to open up a lot of times. Now, if that doesn't happen, sometimes the reason is they do, it's like locking horns where they start tying up hands in here. And when you do that, you get some fun responses out of him. This is where you see big teeps, high section front kicks, flying front kicks, right? He comes in here, starts throwing this kind of stuff. A lot of flying axe kicks that are a lot of fun. So as they start to tie up hands here, right? He starts to come in here, right? And start dropping these axe kicks on him from this locking horns position. Because what's happening is as he's starting to pressure him back, they see his interfering hands, and instead of being moved back, they want to stop this motion by putting hands on top of his hands. And this is where you start locking horns a little bit. Now, it's not as tight of a pressure as you run into. Sometimes you have like a grip in wrestling or something like that because you have the gloves, but it's just enough of a pressure that he can start to just open them up, clear his hands, and come right down the pipe. Okay, so the second thing that he's going to contend with is somebody putting a lot of forward pressure on him. When this happens, he's got some great responses for it. So essentially what's happening is as he starts walking people down, they start putting pressure back, and usually they start opening up their boxing at that point because they know they don't want to get backed up to the ropes, so they start coming aggressive at him, often with hands. When that happens, he's got a couple of very pre-planned responses that he goes to a lot. One of them is his famous cartwheel kick. Now, I'm not going to give a tutorial on the cartwheel kick. I can't really do it anymore. I got bad shoulders and bad elbow, and I'm a little bit older. It's harder for me to execute. But essentially the principle is he's going to put a hand on the floor. When he does it, it's almost like a breakdancing trick. I don't do it as well as he does. He's been doing it forever. But he usually uses one hand, maybe supports the other. For me, I've got to do it two-handed, okay? But essentially what happens is as they start getting in here, he puts his head down to get underneath these punches, and it's just kind of like shooting a reactive single leg where as they're committed to boxing, they can't really stop themselves from running into it. It's also a really great crowd pleaser, and it looks great to judges when he lands this. But essentially, as they come forward, he puts down, like so. Okay? Once again, if you want a tutorial on how to do a cartwheel kick, there's plenty of other videos on that. For me, I'm more interested in systems and tactics. This is not a move I use, but it's a move he uses, so I had to discuss it. Okay, let's move on to the next thing. Oftentimes, as they come forward, an easy solution is for him to pull, just out of range of the first punch and return fire right over top. So he comes in here, he pulls, immediately pushes back off of that foot, and a lot of times he'll turn it into a little blitz and punctuate it with a chasing roundhouse kick, which means that the first punch stops them. The second punch makes them feel like they're in danger, and as they start backing up, he catches them with the chasing roundhouse kick. So as he comes in here, he pulls, catches them over top, throws a second punch. Now they feel like they're in danger, they start to back up, and he lets them run into his head kick. This is something I do a lot, where once I can put hands on somebody and start backing them up, or I start chasing them with a combination, and they feel like they're in danger, a common response, particularly in MMA, where you don't have to be as engaged, is to back up like so. And when people do that, this is one of my favorite times to land the head kick. It lands very successfully because people just kind of run into it. So that's a second way that he has of dealing with it. The third way is he just engages in his clinch series. If they start coming out too aggressively and doesn't feel like he can stop it, he ties up, gets to his collar and bicep control, and then we'll get into the clinch series later on, but that's his second tactic from there. Okay, so assuming these other things have not happened, the third thing he'll go into is drawing out a body kick so that he can counter it. Now, oftentimes what he's done to do this is he throws a body kick of his own. Usually what he likes to do is, as he starts walking guys back, if they haven't locked horns, if they haven't pressured back, he starts to cut an angle to the outside. We'll talk about that more in his offense, why he does that. But he'll start to cut an angle to the outside and throw a jab. Their hands are usually already up, and so it just needs to keep the hands up. This is going to expose this outside of the body, so as he steps to the outside, he throws the body kick to this exposed rib area as the hands are high. Now, once he does that, a common practice in Muay Thai is as soon as somebody throws a body kick on you, to immediately return fire. He understands this, and this is what he's counting on. So he comes out, throws the jab, throws the body kick, and as soon as they come in here, he's ready to catch this kick back. He does this by stepping away from it. He doesn't want to just absorb the kick. He's going to go in the same direction to take the bite off of it. And then from here, he goes into what I believe is his best move, which is his foot sweeps. I don't want to go into a whole detailed breakdown on how to do a foot sweep from a caught kick, but essentially the basic principle is I lift and I elevate, and I'm going to drive forward onto this back hip to take the weight off of this leg, as I'm going to take this hand and I'm going to punch it down into his leg or his hip, so that I'm going to take all the weight off of his leg, lift him up, and give him a nice easy foot sweep as I just come in here and then I kick this out, right? So boom. That's essentially what he's going to do from that. That's his primary technique that he does, but he does have some other things that he does. Sometimes he'll do things like, as he catches it in here, he might feed it across, right? Especially if he catches like this outside kind of grip, he might, if he doesn't like do a direct catch, like an overhand catch, and he does this underhand catch, he might feed it to the underhook here and then foot sweep this way. Or he might do stuff like, if he catches here, he might step back and counter kick on his own. This kind of stuff happens a lot. But the other thing that he's talked about that he likes to do is when he catches this, because it keeps them locked into place, he throws it down and he throws that cartwheel kick again. All right, in the next section, we're going to talk a little bit about entries. This is an important section because he used this stuff a lot very well. This first one in particular is the most important because he lands this a lot, very high success rate. The thing that's nice about this outside jump entry that he does, and we kind of talked about where he'll throw the jab and then throw this body kick, but a lot of times he'll go even beyond that. Sometimes he leads with the jab, sometimes he just goes cold. But what he does is he almost throws himself to the ropes to the side of them, frames, and hits him here. Now, it can be in the form of like flying roundhouse kicks, like, oh, coming in here. Sometimes it can be big jumping knees, oh. And because they're backed up against the ropes, they have nowhere to go, so he does more impact. It could be, you know, jumping a big roundhouse kick. Once again, he's not in danger because look where he's going. He's going off to the side. He's not engaging directly, and it allows him to put these big techniques on him that land very, very well. Okay, let's talk about a couple entries that he does when guys are not really engaging a lot. The first one is a quick jumping roundhouse kick to the leg that he jumps up and he kicks low, right? And this will often set the stage as he does this quick jumping leg kick that if they do something, oftentimes it will set him up for something else. So a lot of times he'll do like a jumping roundhouse and then come to a high kick, right? And level change off of it. Sometimes he'll do that so that they'll back up and he can start pressing him back to the ropes to engage in whether it's his locked horn series or starting to attack, drawing out the kick so he can counter, all this stuff, okay? Another one that he does a lot is a quick shuffle step. Part of this he does because the playfulness, he's always having fun in the ring and his opponents are often not. That is a big mental edge when he can just have fun out there and they're worried. So in other words, he's giving them anxiety while he's giving himself a good time. And this type of stuff is really good because he's got a reputation that, you know, precedes him. And so guys get nervous when he starts doing this shuffle step and stuff. And most of the time, they do nothing. Now, if they do throw a teep or something like that, he goes into his caught kick series, no problem. But a lot of times, he'll throw this stuff, boom, and use that to set up a switch kick. Boom, 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 boom. And just put a roundhouse kick on the body. And while they're going, what's going on? What do I do? What do I do? Oh, that happens a lot. Okay, this next move is an entry that he's very famous for having done several times. And I call it the Saenchai slide by. And what he does is he throws a leg kick and he creates a check. And when they check, as they raise their foot, he comes in the second time. This time he slides through, takes a step pivot, and he ends up behind him. Boom! Now from there you can immediately kick to any level. But oftentimes what will happen is as he does the slide by, guys will then turn to face him because they go, oh no, where'd he go? And they turn and they walk into a kick. And this is often what he does. So one more time, he'll come in here, leg kick, slide by, step turn, they turn to face, and he returns fire. Okay, now let's start breaking down some of the combinations that he does very well. One of the things that you'll see him do a lot is as he's in here and he's throwing like this, punches and he's working his way back, he'll start doing these dropping body crosses. It's almost like an old school traditional Taekwondo, like reverse punches, boom, start landing it here. And then what inevitably happens is once he's done this a couple times, they start dropping their hands and he starts coming here and he throws an overhand. And he has a lot of success landing that. Another one that he'll do a lot is he'll feint the roundhouse kick, throw it in the body, and he'll start to pull it up, and at the last second, he switches through to the front kick. This is something Bob Rutan's talked about doing a lot too. This is another technique that works really well as a fun little combination. One of the combinations that's also unique to him, and this goes back to that foot sweep he's so effective at, is he does a blitz into a foot sweep. It's really fun. He just kind of charges forward, puts pressure on their hands, and throws a quick foot sweep. And it's a quick blitz that he does out of nowhere. So he's in there working this stuff, and then all of a sudden here, boom! And he's very successful because once again, he's getting the weight off of the foot by pushing back in their hands. And when he does, as the weight comes off, it's very easy to remove it. Finally, his last combination that he uses a lot is a springing side kick into a rear leg side kick. So, and I've talked about this before, instead of doing like a sit kick where it's very telegraphed, he just kind of waits till they come forward and he lands it really quick on the body. One of my students, Chris, is great at this technique. And as soon as he comes in here, as they start backing it up, he follows it with the rear side kick. So those are the 4 combinations in addition to this other stuff that he's doing that he'll land a lot and go back to. And he just keeps going back to this stuff. Okay, in this next section, we're going to be talking a lot about clinching and some of the things that Saenchai does from the clinch. Mostly what you're going to see him end up in is like this collar and bicep control, right? This is common in Muay Thai. You know, obviously you're pummeling in and stuff like that, but he doesn't spend a lot of time on like the plum clinch. Instead, what you'll see him do is mostly just a collar and a bicep, reaching all the way to the tricep. And he's got a couple things that he does from here. In particular, one is he likes to exploit when they start coming up to throw their knees, and that's when he likes to go for the throw. And a lot of times what you'll see him do is like a rotational throw where he just literally just rotates them around so that as they start coming up to knee, like he's in here working and he just kind of lets them throw their knees and rotates them around. And he's got other versions of that he does. He'll throw in his foot sweeps from here. Sometimes as soon as they go to throw that knee, he just foot sweeps underneath it. Sometimes he'll go as far as to catch the knee and then do this rotational throw. This is what I like to do a lot, where as I'm in here, he goes to throw a knee, I scoop under it, I catch it, and now I just block the foot, and it's an easy takedown, okay? Another technique you'll see him engage in a lot is he'll do essentially a duck under to a body lock and do a Kasota. So as he's in here, he'll just wait for this hand to get free, pop his head out the back, connects his hands here, and just trips straight back. That's another common thing that you'll see him do is going for this body lock position. And he just gets there from a duck under, right? He's in here working, pops his head out, postures up high to really kind of lift them up. You can't see it as well on the bob, but he'll lift them up using this and then bring them back with this technique. And then another one that he'll do also is he'll do a snap down a lot of times, where as he's in here, he'll step out and he'll do a snap down, bringing the head down, throw knee strikes, throw elbow strikes, whatever it is. But just a quick snap down to get some easy strikes off. Finally, in clinching, the last one I want to talk about, and this is a fan favorite of his, is the monkey climb. It is a cool technique. It's going to work okay on the bob. It works better on a person. You can really get your hooks in. And what he's going to do is he's going to be in here working. And as they start pushing him up back against the ropes, it's easier when you have this platform you can kind of push into. But as they start to come in here, he'll block the legs so that they can't knee strike them. And then from here, he'll climb up, leaning back on the ropes to do this kind of stuff. And then last but not least, you can't do a thing about Saenchai without talking about the famous kiss. Letting him know, hey, oh, we're in here, mwah. I don't take you that seriously. We're all having fun. Okay, last thing I want to talk about, the tactical advantage of Saenchai's playfulness and some of the other head games that he plays out there that are hugely valuable. You know, and some of these involve things like he does a lot of playful antics, but he'll do like all these fancy things, and then he'll just throw a simple cross down the pipe because you get so busy looking for all the fancy that you forget that sometimes you leave yourself open for these other things, the simple stuff, and he'll return back to that. But more than that, the playfulness has a tactical advantage. It gives you anxiety and it takes away my own anxiety. You know, I was talking about this at jiu-jitsu not that long ago with some of the guys that, like, they were talking about, like, it's easy to get caught up in this thing where, like, your opponent's across the ring from you in, like, a fight to win or something like that. They're doing this and you're like, you're getting all serious back. Sometimes a better solution, in my opinion, is just take the wind out of yourself and go, like, have fun, right? When you don't take that seriously, their anxiety is only going to increase because now they're going to get angry. They're going to be anxious. You're going to take all that negative energy and let it go. And when you can do that, it is a huge tactical advantage to not let the adrenaline tire you out, to not let anxiety interfere with your tactical judgment. If you look at guys like Greg Jackson and Trevor Whitman, one of the things I like about the way that they corner is if you ever notice, they'll come out there, they're like, all right, let me get 3 deep breaths. Great. All right, here's what you did while in the ring. Are you having fun out there? He will literally ask, are you having fun? To get a response, I'm like, yeah, you know what? This is a serious thing, but it's also fun. Let's just have fun out there. And that is a different experience. So you don't take it so seriously. So you don't put so much pressure on yourself. And that is when you're going to perform better. And his antics allow that to happen. Now, obviously, it's great from a sales perspective, too, for those of you who are like up-and-coming fighters that you want to get known. You know, I had a guy who was talking about wanting to just come right out and punch a guy before they even shook hands. I'm like, well, there's better ways of doing that. Like, that sets a negative precedent. Let's do one off a positive. And Saenchai is such a better light to look at where, you know, kissing a guy on the cheek and doing, like, you know, exciting, like, cartwheel kicks and monkey climbs and all this stuff. It's exciting for the crowd, but the playfulness also works in his favor. And like I said, all this playfulness, sometimes they're so busy thinking about this that they forget that just, boom, a simple cross on the pipe will do the trick. That stuff is very valuable. Then the last thing I want to talk about is the return fire policy. Oh, excuse me, it's not the last thing. I have one more thing to talk about too. Before I get to return fire policy, another thing that he does that I like, and he only does this when he spars. I never see him do it in the ring really, but miscalling shots. And the way that he played, I love watching him just friendly spar people. And like, he'll like call shots, but then he'll miscall shots. And it's very similar to what we talked about with Holly Holm breakdown, where we talked about using key-ups and then using false positive key-ups and mistimed key-ups to throw your opponent off. Very much the same thing, where he'll be in here and be like, head, body, body. And he miscalls shots to mess with you. Or he'll do stuff that's playful. He's in here, right? Boom, and just smack somebody in the butt. It's a way of saying, like, let's just have fun. Don't take it too seriously. But it also, when you kind of make a mockery of your opponent, even in playfulness, it changes the dynamic where I'm in control and you are here. I don't even take you serious. And that is what Saenchai does really well with his playfulness. It's exciting to crowds, but mostly it takes the pressure off of him and it makes his opponents more anxious because they're not being taken seriously. Now, let's finish up with the return fire policy. This is something I really like that he does. I would encourage it out of you as well. I talk about it a lot with leg kicks and stuff like that, but one of the best examples that he does is if you happen to take him down, he will take you right down right away. You might get, nobody's invulnerable. If you happen to catch him with a takedown, he will come back in there, and within 15 seconds, you're going to be on the ground. He wants to leave no illusions in anybody's head whose ring this is. And one of the ways he does that is, okay, you get lucky. I'm going to prove to everybody it was just luck, and I'm going to take you down 2 more times now. And I'm just going to do a right, that quick foot sweep, or I'm going to catch it and immediately boom, take you down. I'm going to come in here, and you're going to be on the ground time after time after time right after that, so that I can prove to everybody that it was a fluke. It's a very important thing. Once again, the psychology both on his opponent and on the judges and on himself. Very important aspects. And this carries to other areas as well. If you happen to catch a head kick on him, he's going to come back in there. You're going to eat 3 head kicks right away. He's going to make a point to showcase anything you do to me is a fluke. Anything I do to you, I can do at will. And that is a very nice way of punctuating his fights. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I enjoyed breaking him down. He's so much fun to watch. I could just watch him all day, every day. But it was a privilege to be able to break down this material because it's so valuable. I'm excited to be playing with it more in my sparring, and I hope you are too.